Good afternoon. This is your host, Michael J. Long, host of Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I sincerely and truly appreciate it. Alright, so a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and one of them is free trade, and the other one is tax reform. Well, you can't, in a free society, you wouldn't be able to have one without the other. So first and foremost, let's talk about free trade. Free trade is the ability for people, organizations, groups, associations, and also included in this list, individuals, to freely trade products, goods, and services with other individuals and people, institutions, organizations, associations in other countries around the world. And this would even include countries that we feel do things wrong or incorrectly, or don't entirely go by our standards, or what we believe to be our standards. So let me express my opinion on this. I think we should freely trade with all countries around the world, and let that be the make or break of whether countries survive or not, or how they shift and change their behaviors or policies rather, in favor of other policies. I mean, let me just put it to you like this. If we, let's imagine we were freely trading with Cuba, but we didn't like what their government was doing, right? So us as individuals could say, you know what, I don't want to do business with them, I don't want to buy products from them, because I don't support what they're doing, or I don't support the policies that they're coming out with in oppression of their people, or whatever it is, whatever the thing is that they're doing, right? And then Cuba could then decide whether they want to shift their behaviors and change to meet the demands of the consumers, so we can do business with them. And then this way, people won't feel targeted, and most importantly, we'll be able to provide food, water, clothing, and jobs and different things of that nature to that country, to its people, like essentials and stuff, which we're currently unable to do because of the trade embargo we have with Cuba that we've had since the 60s, which I feel is outdated, and I think it's time we elect congressmen and women in the U.S. House and Senate that will actually repeal the embargo, so that we can do business with Cuba once again. And I think that this also is to say that we should also have a president, we should elect a president that is also willing to soften relations with Cuba and whatnot. But that's one example that this could apply to many other countries and so forth. Alright, so then the next question is, what about tax reform? Because this affects us especially domestically. But remember, tariffs are also taxes that you pay, that we impose on other countries, but then when we trade with them, they get shipped back to us, so we're the ones paying the tax, if that makes sense. So, but let's talk about domestic tax reform first off. And I think this is one area in which we could improve our taxes by reducing our taxes, so that, substantially, so that we have more, so that we're able to keep more of the money that we're able to earn, that we earn, so that we can decide what best to do with it, and that will in turn stimulate the economy in a much better way than, let's say, taxing. So, first off, I think we should get the government out of the way of providing corporate income or corporate subsidies. We should abolish that, first and foremost. But we should also get rid of the IRS and the income tax system and the Federal Reserve and replace it with the fair tax. In conjunction to replacing all that with the fair tax, we should abolish the Federal Reserves. And the agency that should manage the fair tax should be Congress. No other entity, institution, organization, or entity within, or board, commission, whatever, within the realm of government should be managing the fair tax. That should specifically be managed by Congress and nobody else, because we elect members of Congress to decide whether we need a tax increase or a tax decrease, and ultimately those are the people that should be managing the fair tax. In conjunction to that, I would argue that the best way to have that implemented is to reduce the size of the federal government and its budget. And we need to pay off our deficit, that's first and foremost, and we need to make cuts, and we need to reduce the government to its mere constitutional limitations. So that goes hand in hand with tax reform, because, you know, in order to implement this fair tax, you have to make cuts for it to work, apparently. And then once that's in place, then anybody who pays into it gets a rebate, I think, at the end of each month or whatever. I forget how it works, but then you don't have to participate in receiving the rebate. You can if you want to, right? You know, because it's your money, why not, right? So, but you wouldn't be required to file like you are with the income tax, where you have to file for taxes every time you work or whatnot, and then they end up taking it all back and taking it out of your paycheck each month, like a portion of it or whatnot. So say you're making $1,000, you're only going to bring home $900 to $800. That's not with the current system, and that's absolutely pathetic. So with the fair tax, you know, it does. You know, you're not necessarily, at least this is my understanding of it. You're not necessarily getting paid. You're not getting taxed more. The poor are not getting taxed more, and the rich aren't. Well, the rich aren't getting tax less or more, and somehow it balances out and whatnot. So I think that's one of the best alternatives there is to tax reform, and then this will put us in a position where we can better further reduce the rate of taxes and taxes in general. So I don't know what the standard rate is with the fair tax policy, but we could even reduce it further than that, because, as you know, the less taxes you have to pay, the less, if this makes sense, the more you're going to be able to keep and the more you're going to be able to do with. So anyways, this is, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit the subscription link on my YouTube channel. Click the notification bell and select all, and that way you will be notified of any videos that I upload and any content or my live streams if I go live or whatnot. And of course, this is Michael J. Long, host of Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party. And this is my video on tax reform and free trade, or free trade and tax reform, if you will. And thank you for joining me. I truly and sincerely appreciate it.